Here's Brody Brazil.
I've been thinking about making this specific video for quite some time now. I just never got around to it. And then this morning, I was tagged in a tweet, which you will see in just a second. But that tweet finally pushed me over the edge to put this presentation together, to jump right into this topic about Major League Baseball. What is the contrast between what teams spend and what they actually get out of it? Now, full disclosure here, as I discuss what they get out of it, I'll be showing you regular season results. That's not entirely fair because what you're ultimately aiming for is to go out and win it all, right? Win a World Series. But baseball is so interesting. We have every stat possible, all the way down to a pitcher's spin rate on an off-speed pitch. There are a mind-numbing amount of quantifications and stats, but ultimately, the thing that matters most as a business entity, how much did you spend? How much did it cost you? And how many wins did you get out of that in the regular season to put yourself in position for a successful postseason? So what is the correlation between spending and receiving in Major League Baseball? Here is how I want to break this down. First off, I want to look at this tweet that the Hard Rock Sportsbook sent me. This is what got me into it. The Giants gave Carlos Correa a $350 million contract. Across the bay, the Oakland A's payroll combined the last 5 seasons has been $325 million. 5 years for an entire team versus $350 million for Correa in 13 years in San Francisco. One player, though, versus a whole team of players for 5 years. In that span, though, I think they're talking about the last 5 years, the Giants made the playoffs once. Oakland made it 3 times. And quite honestly, 2021 should have garnered them another playoff appearance. So it should have been 4 times in 5 years. But I get the point. And this is what got me into doing the research and putting all of this together. So I'll break it down like this. Last season, here are the teams that spent more than $200 million. And at the very top, there are some things that stand out. Los Angeles and New York teams spending among the most. Dodgers, Mets, Yankees. How about that? Mets on top of the Yankees. That doesn't happen all the time, but it's happening right now. 1, 3, and 5 is how they finished in baseball in terms of best record. Dodgers spent the most, had the best record. I know it doesn't always work out that way, but it did this past season. Top 3 teams in spending are top 5 teams, among the top 5 teams in the standings. But it also goes to show you here the remainder of the teams that spent above $200 million, 30 total teams in baseball. If 15 is the top half and the bottom half, if that's the divider, you've got the White Sox here right at the middle. You've got the Red Sox on the bottom half of baseball spending $212 million. Obviously, the Padres went through a bunch of injuries last year and suspensions last year, but $225 million to finish 10th. Or even the Phillies, who did make it quite far in the postseason, but 11th in the regular season across baseball, and they spent almost $245 million. They were the 4th biggest spenders, and they finished 11th, almost at the halfway point across baseball standings. So does it guarantee you that you'll be way up there at the end, that you'll win your division? Clearly not. Half the teams were probably satisfied with what they spent here. The other half, in the regular season of last year, probably didn't feel so great about it. And then you've got this kind of sneaky $150 million plus category. Astros obviously won it all. $183 million is what it cost them, and they finished overall with the 2nd best record in baseball. Atlanta right behind them. Look at the Blue Jays at $177 million. They finished 7th. How about the Cardinals? $156 million. They finished 6th. I realize the other dynamic of all of this is that these teams are often in different places of trajectory. Some teams have had sustained success, and because of that, you pay for it. And then you pay for it through older age, and then those players maybe don't perform, and you're tied to those contracts, and that's why you're seeing things here all across the map. I do realize that every one of these teams is in a different build situation, but I'm just trying to show you here, as much as we're trying to quantify all this and show you the trends, it's hard to really pin down. This could look totally opposite from this next year when we look at it. But it does go to show you here that if you're in that 150 to 200 million category, like you can win it all here. You can also find ways to have successful regular seasons. You can also find ways to struggle, as evidenced by some of those other teams. How about even above 100 million? There's a lot of teams here in this category specifically that I'm like, what? What is happening here? The Nats, worst team in baseball. The Tigers and Rockies, near the bottom, and they're spending 136 and 140 respectively. Twins in the second half, the bottom half of baseball. The Reds even at $115 million. Only the Mariners, I think, and probably the Brewers in this category too, feel really good about last year. Now, Seattle, up-and-coming team, maybe a couple paydays due for them, so their number might rise over the years. But as of right now, the way they've done it, the way they've built it, they went back to the playoffs this last year for the first time in 21 seasons. At $116 million to finish ninth, there's got to be some success, some good feelings there, and look at right above and below them. Like if you're the Nats, if I own the Nats, I'm saying, wait, we spent like $9 million more than the Mariners, and they were top 10 and we were last in the league? And how about the Reds? Like, it's a weird sandwich for the Mariners to be in right there, seeing their surroundings. But yeah, this is kind of a weird $100 million plus category of teams that just did not find a lot of success. And then this brings us to the sub-$100 million category. And there's actually, like, look at Cleveland and look at the Orioles, right? You've got two teams in there that had, I don't want to say surprise seasons, but the Orioles to spend $45 million and finish in the top half of baseball, and the Guardians to spend $66 million and to be eighth. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of evidence here that if you don't spend that much, you are like the Royals or the D-backs or the Marlins at $83 million finishing 22nd. And yes, I'm going to address my favorite elephants literally in the room, the Oakland A's, but that was by design of what they're doing right now. I understand that fully of what they're doing, where they finished. Quite honestly, at $48 million, a lot of people thought they would be 30th, and they weren't. Think about the Nationals. Go back to that. You want to spend, almost 3 times as much and finish last? So there is a respect to be taken about knowing the season ahead of you and knowing your goal through it. So yeah, I mean, generally speaking, this is not where you want to be performance-wise, like in the results here of regular seasons, but teams can have success this way. So, after seeing all that, what's the summary? There is some rhyme and reason, but it doesn't always entirely work as a correlation of money versus results, maybe where you're at in your team's journey as a roster, as a franchise. Baseball is like this. I mean, what you spend, yeah, it could probably secure you some things, but it doesn't guarantee you everything. Let me know what you thought about this video or your thoughts on this topic in general. I'd love to see them in the comments section below.